So Elon Musk is now the owner of Twitter. The board of Twitter has agreed to a $44 billion takeover from the billionaire Elon Musk. Musk then took to Twitter and he said, "I hope that even my worst critics remain on Twitter because that is what free speech means." Well, if he cared so much about free speech, then why did he fire an employee for criticizing Tesla? Now, even if he's some kind of free speech warrior, it's still terrible for democracy because free speech should not be at the whim of one billionaire. Now, our media is owned by the billionaire class, yet many people dub it as free press, but there's no such thing as free press anymore when it comes to, well, the political discourse, because the mega rich own the means of communication. It's one of the worst things that happen in a so-called democratic society. What we have right now is billionaires use the media that they own to push their own class interests. So you obviously got real life supervillain, Rupert Murdoch, who owns pretty much all of the British press. Has that been good for democracy? Well, not really. I mean, check out these headlines from the Washington Post after Jeff Bezos took over the company. Think twice before changing tax rules to soak billionaires. Most effective way to tax rich is not through a wealth tax. Billionaire space race benefits us all, really. Now, Andrew Neil, a journalist who I don't exactly hold in high regard, famously said, "If you want to know what Rupert Murdoch really thinks, read the editorials in The Sun and the New York Post, because he is editor-in-chief of these papers." What this really boils down to is there is a false equivalence of what some people think of the media. Some people think it's either owned by the state or it's private, okay? And that's the only two things. But actually that really makes no difference because obviously state-run media is beholden to the government. But then the billionaire press, well, that's government propaganda because these are very, very powerful people who are very close or even in bed with those in government. So there is no difference. In order to have a better media, it needs to be more open and more democratic, needs to have more accountability to the public. It also needs to be much more diverse. Now, I'm not just talking about in terms of race, I'm talking about class, because most of our journalists are white and privately educated. Specifically, 51% of leading journalists and 80% of editors. So it's very white, but it's also very, very privileged. Then what sort of media are you going to get? Are you going to get a media that talks about the working class? Are you going to get the media that talks about the oppressed? Or are you going to get the media that talks about nationalising sausages? We don't have working class voices in mainstream media. In fact, what if we had a media that was owned by the working class? Now, thankfully, independent media is on the rise. Here at the Canary, we are diverse. We don't have wealthy backers. And the stories we put out, we experience ourselves. Because really, it doesn't matter which government we elect, bar a couple of policies that might make some cosmetic changes, nothing will fundamentally change. And that is because our media or our mainstream media is an arm of the establishment. Our political system is largely held up by our broken, our undemocratic media that is constantly pushing the interests of the elite minority over the interests of the majority. And there is a name for this: class war.